If you're charging by the hour, do you have difficulty raising your prices for really two reasons? Every time you raise your prices, for some reason, the clients that you had previously start to drop off. But then even attracting new clients starts to become harder and harder. In this video, I'm gonna go through why charging by the hour is one of the biggest fallacies to ever enter the world of coaching, and what you can do to increase your value 5 to 10 times. Now, in order to understand why charging by the hour is one of the worst things you can do as a coach, let's talk about how people price things in their mind. How is value created in the mind of a client? Well, here's how people actually create value. They compare like with like. So if something costs $100, they compare it with something similar that costs $100, and they ask themselves, is this actually worth it? So if you compare a computer with a coach, these are two very different things, because a computer, you have a stats sheet, you can feel it, you can touch it, and you know what you're getting for what you're paying. Whereas when we look at a coach, on the other hand, it's difficult because it's intangible. You can't taste it, you cannot touch it, and it's very difficult to compare one coach to another. So it's important to note that when you're charging by the hour, people start to compare, well, what else can I buy for that hourly rate? So let's take an example for a moment. Let's take a coach and let's imagine for a moment that this coach is charging $100 an hour. And let's push yourself in the mind of your target client. What are they thinking when they see on your website, all right, for one session with this coach, I'm gonna get charged $100. How are they gonna quantify whether it's actually worth it for them to pay that money or not? Well, it's going to be difficult because all that's happening here is they are getting charged by the hour. So they don't know at the end of the hour, are they going to achieve the result that they want to achieve? Are they going to get what they came for? Or is it just going to extend and be indefinite? Am I going to continue to pay this hourly fee again and again and again? So because they have this question mark in their mind, they start to say, all right, $100 an hour. What else can I get for that? Well, I could get a really nice meal for 2 people. You know, I could go out with my family to the movies, right? I could buy 5-month subscription on Netflix. What happens when you charge by the hour is your clients start to compare you to things that have nothing to do with what it is that you're offering. And obviously, if they think that what you're doing may actually be worth it, then fine, they may pay you that $100. But the challenge comes in actually raising those prices, because right now we've quantified this coach at $100. So it's still possible that this coach is going to start getting clients. Now, the real problem happens when we get a coach for a moment, and this coach wants to raise their prices, and instead of $100, what's happening now is this coach is charging $1,000. Now, what happens in the client's mind? They still don't know whether they're going to get what they came for by signing up with this coach. So now they're looking at $1,000. They're looking at, let's say, 2 weeks rent. They're looking at a mini getaway. They're actually looking at a computer for a single session. Now, can you see, by comparing the $1,000 with a getaway, 2 weeks of rent, or even a computer and many other things, it becomes harder and harder to justify why you should pay $1,000 for a session with that coach when you do not know what that coach is actually going to give you at the end. And obviously, the more that you raise your prices, the more that this comparison comes into play as to what else can I get. Now, one of the other things about charging by the hour is how long you retain your clients. Now, we did a survey last year where we had a few hundred coaches which took part, and we asked them to be honest and tell us, what is the average retention for your clients? How many hours you typically retain a client for? Now, take a guess for a moment. How long was that retention rate? Do you think it was 10 hours, 20 hours? Believe it or not, the average retention rate on this study was 3 hours, right? Effectively 3 sessions, which means they weren't able to really deliver value in that time. Now, you as a coach know If you don't get enough time with your clients, you're not going to be able to deliver the value that's promised. And if you're only getting a 3-hour retention on average for your clients, what that ultimately means is that your clients are not staying with you long enough to get results. If they're not staying long enough with you to get results, they're not going to give you a testimonial. They're not going to refer other people to you. And what that also means is that you're constantly going to have to be searching for clients and pitching them with absolutely no gain from the previous client. It's going to be difficult to sell them on further programs as well because they haven't gotten results with you. And that's not because you are a bad coach, but it's because you are charging by the hour. And ultimately, after 3 hours, the client could not quantify the value any further, and they decided to cut the cord. Now, I want you to think for a moment. The big coaches out there, the huge coaches out there, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, Marie Forleo, how many of them actually charge by the hour? You'd be pressed to find that number because nowhere online does a coach charge by the hour, at least not the big ones. And when you want to hire Tony Robbins, he will charge you $1 million for a year, but nothing less than a year. Because he knows in that year, you're going to get tremendous results from actually working with him. So understand that if the big coaches are not doing this, and it's only the startup coaches and typically coaches which aren't succeeding, which are charging by the hour, are you going to model the coaches that aren't succeeding or the coaches that are? As Tony says, success leaves clues, and you have to model those which are succeeding in a way that you want to succeed. And that is called packaging your coaching. Now, in the next video, I'm going to talk to you about how to raise your prices between 5 and 10 times by simply taking what you offer and packaging it up. But it has to be a certain sequence of events. Otherwise, your clients will not pay you what you want to be paid for what it is that you're offering.